Hello and welcome to Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast number 48. This week we return to the black and white era of Doctor Who, and to a companion who's often forgotten, played by an actor who these days is better remembered for his part in British television children's magazine programme Blue Peter, and for hosting the BBC's coverage of the annual competitive dog show, Crufts. Peter Purves was born on the 10th of February 1939 and is an English television personality best known for being a presenter on the BBC children's programme Blue Peter. After 11 years on the programme, Purves continued to make regular appearances on television. In particular, he's been associated with the television coverage of the Crufts dog show. Purves was born in New Longton near Preston in Lancashire and was educated at the independent Arnold School in Blackpool. He'd originally planned to go into teaching, training at Alsager College of Education, but began to act with Barrow-in-Furness Repertory Company instead. He also attended Manchester Polytechnic and is a confirmed atheist. Purves originally auditioned for the part of a giant insect in the Doctor Who story The Web Planet, but failed to get the part. Then he appeared in the third episode of The Chase as Morton Dill, a hillbilly. He then appears as Stephen in the final episode, having grown the beginnings of a beard to disguise the connection between the two characters. The production team had been looking for a character to replace Barbara Wright and Ian Chesterton, who were leaving in that serial, and Purves was suggested by both William Hartnell and Maureen O'Brien. Early drafts of the story used the names Brooke and Michael for the character of the captured astronaut, before settling on Stephen. Purves was 26 when he first became known to television audiences in 1965 as Stephen Taylor, and has continued to provide DVD commentaries for many of the surviving Doctor Who episodes he appeared in, and documents the making of each of his Doctor Who stories in his autobiography, Here's One I Wrote Earlier. He was also a good friend of John Pertwee, who of course played the Third Doctor. Purves has said that he preferred the historical stories on the show above any others. After leaving Doctor Who, Peter Purves became a regular presenter on the children's magazine programme Blue Peter between 1967 and 1978. He co-presented Blue Peter first with John Noakes and Valerie Singleton, and then with John Noakes and Leslie Judd during the programme's so-called Golden Age. After John Noakes, Peter Purves is the second longest-serving male Blue Peter presenter. Purves maintained his connection to Doctor Who throughout his time on Blue Peter, often hosting special features on the programme and interviewing actors. These included many clips from the episodes which are otherwise now lost, most notably the Daleks' Master Plan, in which Purves himself appeared. Dogs have featured in Purves' career since his Blue Peter days, when he was given charge of one of the Blue Peter pets, Petra, a German Shepherd Cross. He became so closely associated with Blue Peter that he found his association difficult to shake off, and also presented the spin-off Blue Peter Special Assignment. After leaving Blue Peter, Purves presented Stopwatch and We're Going Places, and later had a spell as the frontman for darts events for the BBC, and as a presenter on the long-running BBC One motorbike trials series Kickstart. His later TV career has included cameo appearances in episodes of BBC soap opera EastEnders and sitcoms The Office and I'm Alan Partridge. In the Office episode Training Day, Purves played himself in a customer training video that David Brent and his staff were being shown. Interestingly, Purves is a qualified business trainer and a motivational speaker. Peter Purves has also had a 30-year association with television coverage of a major dog show such as Crufts, and in 2007 he appeared as a judge on the reality TV programme The Underdog Show. Purves also writes for the Dog Press and regularly presents dog award shows. Marking his 70th birthday, his 2009 autobiography Here's One I Wrote Earlier was released at the Kennel Club. Purves is a noted pantomime director, enjoying good working relationships with the Chuckle Brothers, and has directed over 25 pantomime productions. In December 2012, Purves portrayed Alderman Fitzwarren in Dick Whittington at the Harpenden Public Halls, which was the first time he had performed in pantomime since 1985, and he's also an award-winning after-dinner speaker. But what about the companion that Peter Purves played in Doctor Who? Stephen Taylor is a space pilot from Earth in the future. He was a companion to the First Doctor and a regular in the programme between 1965 and 1966. Stephen appeared in 10 stories, totalling 45 episodes. Sadly, however, only 3 of the serials in which Stephen appeared as a regular are complete in the BBC archive, those being The Time Meddler, The Ark and The Gunfighters. Stephen first appears in the serial The Chase, when the Doctor and his companions Ian, Barbara and Vicky find him on the planet Mechanus, where he crash-landed 2 years previously. He joins the Doctor and Vicky as a companion in the following serial, The Time Meddler, when they discover that he's stowed away in the TARDIS after having escaped the burning mechanoid city. He's a strong-willed individual who is more capable when there's something physical to do than when there's any thinking to be done. But he does have a finely developed sense of right and wrong and places a high value on human life. Stephen follows the Doctor throughout the Daleks' master plan, a dark and dangerous adventure that takes the lives of both Sarah Kingdom and Katarina. He argues with the Doctor when the Doctor refuses to prevent the events of the massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve. Stephen is ready to part company with the Doctor over the deaths that happened, in particular that of a woman named Anne Chaplet. He rejoins the Doctor, however, at the same time that they acquired a new travelling companion, a young woman by the name of Dorothea Dodo Chaplet, who is apparently a descendant of Anne's. Stephen's journey eventually ends during the Savages, when he decides to accept the responsibility of leading the combined society of savages and elders that is attempting a lasting peace. His life beyond that isn't explored in the series. The exact time period that Stephen originally came from isn't specified in the television series. However, in the Daleks' master plan set in the year 4000, Stephen states that he comes from thousands of years before that period. Stephen appears in 3 spin-off novels, The Empire of Glass in 1995 from the Virgin Missing Adventures range, and Salvation in 1999 and Bunker Soldiers in 2001 of the Past Doctor Adventures range. Stephen, often voiced by Purves, also appears in many Big Finish Productions audio dramas, including The 5 Companions alongside the 5th Doctor. In addition, he appears in many stories from the BBC Short Trips range and also the Virgin Decalogue.
Oh, goodbye, my dear chap. I must say I've had the time of my lives.
And that's almost all we have time for this week. But before I head off into the vortex again, I wanted to ask once more if any of you have anything you would like to be included in a possible new section of the show called The Shout-Out. It might be your own Doctor Who podcast, your Doctor Who Facebook page, or a Doctor Who-based website you've set up. I've had one request so far, and when the time is right for them, I'll be featuring them in that new part of the show. But for now, what about you? Have you a Doctor Who-related podcast, Facebook page, website, or even maybe a Doctor Who event that you would like shouted out? Inbox me with the details and let's see if we can get the shout-out up and running. But for now, that is all for this week. If you have any feedback on today's show, or any earlier shows for that matter, you can post your thoughts on Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast Facebook page, you can inbox me on the same page, or you can email me at respectthething@outlook.com. So until next week, when we'll be taking another look at a companion from the black and white era. Thank you for listening to Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all copyright and property of the BBC, and no infringement is intended.